Laura Pidcock is already a bit of a superstar. She only just got elected as an MP. She's a young working class woman from the North East. She's 30, younger than me, annoying. And the reason she's been a bit of a trailblazer, she's a campaigner. Her maiden speech had a huge impact, went viral online. And then she came under attack by the Tory press because she said she didn't want to hang out with Tory MPs. Crimea River. So I want to talk to her about what that whole storm was like, what she believes in, and what sort of society are we going to build. So Laura, is it true that you want to imprison Tory MPs in gulags and force them only to survive on eating Karl Marx's Das Kapital?
Honestly, no.
No, oh good, that's a denial. I'll make a note of that.
Let's set the record straight, Owen. There will not be compulsory Marx for any Tories. It would be helpful if they did read a bit of Marx.
I mean, eat it.
Oh,
That's
no.
what they've got to survive on.
No,
Pages
come on. No, they won't. And I think what happened with Torygate was that... Hashtag Torygate was that, just classic spiralling, conflation of issues, people commenting about comments, and it all got out of hand. I was essentially saying, our energy is precious, we have very little time on this world, and I don't want to spend my time drinking with Tory MPs in this place, and that's quite a professional stance. What
we saw over the summer is lots of commentators on the right writing lots of columns about you. You kind of offended a kind of slightly an establishment in the British press, if you like. Danny Finkelstein said that your attitude would lead to the Stasi, which I thought was a bit of an escalation. But I mean, what was it like to go to, because you've just been elected as an MP, you've only been an MP for like a few months. You're younger than me, which is depressing. But no, you just launched into Parliament and then you've suddenly got this big media firestorm. I mean, what was it like?
It teaches you a lesson. I think genuinely what was happening, and I've seen it happen to other colleagues, when you don't quite fit the mould of the people that are here already, is that you're trying to be pigeonholed, and in a sense, it's to then devalue your arguments that come after, because of course she would say that, because that's what she's like. She's kind of a left, radical feminist woman that's working class, and that's dangerous, or something else, which is like the exoticization of working class people in this place. Oh, aren't they interesting that they can, speak about politics and be eloquent sometimes, like on a really personal level, Owen. It was like, it's a bombardment. I know you're prolific on social media, and I'm just kind of entering into that world where you're a bit of a commodity, and people will say really personal things, and what you end up getting into is a lot of nonsense which detracts away from what you're actually there to do, which is to serve your constituents. There are incredible things happening in my constituency, and the more people get on you, the more energy it uses detracting away from those issues.
So you talked about the benefit cuts which your constituents have suffered and so on. Tell me about the impact. What because the government, they'll say, well, we just got to cut back on money, and we're making work pay, and all this dog whistle stuff about scroungers and skyvies you see in the British press. What's the reality on the ground? What do you see in your surgeries?
People that are suicidal, without a doubt. I represent an area that has the highest numbers of suicides. As my colleague Dan Carden said in the chamber, sometimes people will cry first and then tell you the story later, because they're just trying to, it's just like a relief to speak to somebody about it. I think, right, it's like a low level, and I don't say that to devalue anyone's experience, but there is, what is permeating our societies at the moment is a collective experience of, like, terror might be maybe a bit dramatic, but certainly fear, like lots of fear. To some people it is terror, that their house is going to be taken off them, that they're not going to have enough money to eat. The Department for Work and Pensions is a national disgrace, the way it treats people, the facelessness, people come and say, like, I feel like a criminal, please look at this letter. So there's fear, there's terror, there is anxiety. And
what sort of benefit cuts are we talking about? What are the worst kind of...
Well, you've heard of this, but I don't think we can repeat it enough. But the work capability assessments are particularly degrading. Similarly with personal independence payments are extremely degraded.
This is for disabled
That's
people.
right, so it replaces disability living allowance. They're not carried out by medical experts, but some called medical professionals, but they don't have expertise. And what this is doing, and the whole system, I think, and I'm particularly interested in what an ethical security system would look like, it's built on the presumption that people are liars. And I think it has to be built on the presumption that people are telling the truth. And yes, of course, we will root out those people that will be fraudulent, but they're so few in number that's barely worth talking about, as you know. There is a systemic failure to understand the nature of poverty in the DWP and the nature of unemployment because, and this is, back to ideology, because it is a system designed specifically universal credit by people that haven't been in prolonged periods of unemployment.
Most people in poverty in Britain are in work. And we've seen the explosion of precarious work, insecure work. We've seen, for example, McDonald's, which is particularly highlighted at the moment, poverty pay, insecurity, poor conditions at work. How is that going to change?
By this conversation that we need to have and be really bold and frank, that if we accept in a nation that you can pay somebody less than you can live on, then we are designing a structure to plunge people into poverty by design. The idea, some of the comments, because I backed the McDonald's strikers, of course I did, some of the comments like, what do you expect people to get for flipping burgers? Well, I expect them to be able to live and to have opportunities.
You're crazy radical.
I mean, what an outrageous idea. What do we expect from life? If you are always going to be in low pay, does it mean that you are never allowed an opportunity? Do you know the Department for Work and Pensions at this point in time cannot answer the question whether somebody on universal credit can take a break in the UK without their benefits being stopped? I mean, it is very stressful being out of work or in work but on low pay in receipt of some form of benefit, to be told that you might not actually be able to go for a weekend away with your family because you're undeserving, and that narrative has been set in the nation that you're undeserving. That's a disgrace.
In theory, the Tories could be in power till 2022, which is a while away. You'll be in your mid-30s, I'm in my late 30s, Bleak.
That's it.
It is. So, how are we going to bring them down? Is it possible to bring them down, do you think?
They are really weak. I don't know what they look like on those benches. I've been here, a few weeks? But colleagues tell me that they seem very demoralised, fractured, that the enthusiasm for their leader is entirely whipped, and by that I mean put on.
Are they scared, do you think?
I think so. I tell you what I think they're most scared about, right, is I think they're scared about our activists and the power they have on social media. Working class communities, activists don't have, really high-powered media people in their favour, so we've had to look for different means. That means our activists are excellent online, and I think they're scared of that, but I think they're also scared about the integrity of our arguments, that they cannot emulate, no matter how hard they try, no matter how hard Theresa May tries to praise the NHS, or Jeremy Hunt to praise the NHS, or public sector workers. Public sector workers in my constituency have never been more willing to tell me their disdain for this government. I think they're scared of a multitude of things, none of which they can remedy, because they can't find authenticity because they don't have many working class people amongst their ranks. They can't. They tried to emulate some activism online and it went really, really bad.
What do you mean Activate's been a great success? It's the young girl support Tories after that.
I don't like laughing at misfortune, but it was a disaster, wasn't it?
It's hilarious. Gift that keeps on giving. If a Corbyn government came to power, what would activists out there have to do? Because there would be a very concerted attempt by economic, political interests and others to suffocate that government. What would be the role of a grassroots movement? Victories
have to happen in the workplaces. There has to be pressure on the streets, and that takes us up to potentially a victory and a socialist government. But you're quite right, it does not end there. I'm sure, very wealthy people who are, reaping massive inordinate amount of profits from things like water. I'm sure they won't be too pleased if we want to take that profit back for the people. So I think there has to be a standing strong and a confidence, and I think that all of us as activists have to work to build those networks. Without a doubt there will be more scrutiny than ever on that road to government. more lies, pressure, defamatory comments. I'm sure I'll be put under pressure. Your families get under pressure. Jeremy, I don't know how he sustained the pressure, Diana, but too, and other colleagues. That will only intensify, and I think only through social media to try and get the truth out there. I know there's a lot of rubbish online as well, but building that critical capacity, education, training, activism, and just essentially solidarity to know that this is what will happen if you try and change things. Nothing has ever in the history of the world been gifted to working class people, has it, that we've had to take it.
So when Laura Pidcock's Prime Minister one day, we can all look back at that interview and reminisce. I do think she does have a very bright future ahead of her. She's already got a massive fan base because of the impact she's made in Parliament, far more of an impact than a lot of MPs manage in a lot longer space of time. So do keep your eye on her. But we've got loads of interviews to look at the past ones we've done. We've got loads in the pipeline, which Adam, who's recording this, will have to edit. Good luck, Adam. As ever, leave your comments, subscribe. I'll see you next time.